It's 5 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome to City Council. Happy to see you all here. We are going to start our meeting with an invocation by Major Richard Green with the Salvation Army.
They tell me I don't need a microphone to be heard, but I'd rather come up here and speak to you anyway. I want to thank you for allowing me to represent the Interfaith Council and to do something that I think I can do. Just pray for God's guidance upon your deliberations this day. You know, it was a little over 20 years ago that the disaster happened in New York City. Because the Salvation Army was operating and functioning in New York City, within 1 hour, we started feeding and providing liquid refreshment to those who were serving. In the 9 months of service there, in that location, we served over 4.5 million people. I heard of one officer whose sole job it was, when the firemen or the responders came into our tent and sat down for some refreshment, her job was to remove the shoes, remove the old dirty socks, wash the feet, put brand new clean socks on, and of course their old dirty boots back on. Doing that simple little act of kindness to tell them how much we appreciated what they did for us. You'll also realize that Christmas is coming, and there's a familiar little red kettle outside in your future. You will know that red kettle became into existence because of another disaster in San Francisco. The Fisherman's Wharf burnt down. 5 fishing vessels were destroyed. The men that lived on those 5 fishing vessels needed a place to stay. They went to the Salvation Army mission. The mission served them and was running out of money. So the Corps officer, the captain, put a crab pot out on the front lawn with a sign, "Keep the kettle boiling." And that's where we started our Red Kettle campaign. 10 years later, it's around the United States and now is operating in Korea, Japan, Chile, and throughout Europe as a recognized fundraising effort of the Salvation Army. You'll recognize that all our funds that are raised stay here in the community to benefit the local community and the local citizens. And each one of our local units has a charter to find where they can be of best service to the community and do just that. I would put in a crash advertisement. If anybody listening would like to volunteer on our advisory board and help guide us into where we need to be of best service, I would encourage getting a call from you for that. Let's go ahead and pause for a moment of prayer. Father, I do indeed thank you for these that are gathered here in front of me, for their willingness to serve, for their willingness to make decisions, for their willingness to be here. Father, as we look at what they have to decide, we all have our opinions as to what's best. May we greet each one of these decisions that these folks make with grace and humility, realizing that they're doing the best they can for our community. Bless them. Bless the discussions around this room this day. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank
you so very much, Major. We really appreciate that, and the little history lesson too. Thank you. Greg, do you want to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Please stand and recite the pledge along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have a few pre-agenda items. We have 3 proclamations, and the first one I'm going to read. I had the privilege this week on Tuesday to go and was invited to a luncheon with the respiratory therapists at the hospital. And it was an inspirational lunch, and what our respiratory therapists have been through, almost going on 2 years now, is a job I don't envy, but they do it so well. And so this proclamation is in regards to that. Whereas respiratory therapists are a critical part of the team of medical personnel committed to providing high-quality patient care and are vital to sustaining high standards of health care. And whereas RTs work in all areas of health care, from the emergency room to critical care units and medical and surgical units to diagnostics in skilled nursing facilities, in-home health care, settings supporting physicians and other caregivers, and whereas RTs remain on the front line of the pandemic, risking their own health and safety to be the breath of life for others, and manage the patient's airway, ensuring oxygen is continuously delivered to the patient's brain and vital airways. And whereas the RT is often the one who intubates a patient when they can no longer breathe on their own, monitoring the ventilator and ensuring the patient is breathing as comfortably as possible. And whereas the RT is also the one who extubates a patient, doing so with joy when knowing the patient is on their way to recovery, but other times doing so while trying to comfort the family knowing that their loved one is passing. And whereas the past 18 months has taken a toll on the RTs and all of our dedicated local healthcare workers in St. George because of things they're witnessing every day. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Randall, Mayor, along with the City Council of the City of St. George, Utah, do hereby proclaim the week of October 24th through the 30th as Respiratory Care Week in the City of St. George, and call upon all citizens to recognize the work our respiratory therapists and all healthcare workers are doing at the St. George Regional Hospital during these unprecedented times. Scott, I see you here, and Nicole, do you want to bring your whole team up and quickly introduce yourselves?
First of all, I have never stepped up to a podium that I hadn't had to pull the mic down. But I am Scott Daniel. I am the manager of the respiratory care services here at St. George Regional Hospital.
I'm Nicole Van Wart. I'm the respiratory educator at St. George Regional.
My name is Kyle White. I'm one of the supervisors of respiratory therapy at the hospital.
And I'm Tammy Stuckey. I'm the pulmonary disease navigator for the hospital.
I'm Danielle Ellis. I'm one of the respiratory care managers, supervisors.
And some of them shared some awesome, shared their experiences and the struggles that this pandemic's been on them and their families, and yet they're a great team and pull together to give the best care they can. So they really do work hard, and we are so appreciative of the work you're doing during this unprecedented time. And all we can do is say thank you. I'm going to come down and hand you this proclamation. Sorry, I don't have
That's okay.
that. I won't breathe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The second proclamation we have is Veterans Small Business that Brian's going to read for us.
Whereas nearly 1 out of 10 small businesses across the United States is veteran-owned, from Main Street storefronts to virtual high-tech startups that advance America. Veteran-owned small businesses are pillars of our economy and contribute to the foundation of our nation. And whereas veteran small business owners are resilient, disciplined, and mission-oriented, thanks to their military service and commitment to serving our country and communities. And whereas when we resolve ourselves to strengthen our communities, we must empower and support the giants and that veterans entrepreneurs are in our economy. And whereas National Veteran Small Business Week highlights the programs and services available to veteran entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. Small Business Administration and resource partners. And whereas the City of St. George supports and joins in the national effort to help American veteran-owned small businesses rebuild and recover from this pandemic and ensure that our communities remain vibrant. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Randall, Mayor, along with the City Council of St. George, Utah, do hereby proclaim November 1 through November 5th as National Veteran Small Business Week.
Is there somebody here to accept this proclamation? Come to the microphone and introduce yourself. Brian will bring the proclamation down.
I'm Jackie Hobson. I'm with the Small Business Administration. So St. George just barely got a new office, 1 out of 2 in the whole nation of a satellite office. So we're glad to be here and support. Also a veteran myself. So
great. And Jimmy has our last proclamation.
Whereas the history and culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. And whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Michelle Randall, Mayor, along with the City Council of the City of St. George, do hereby join with community members in proclaiming the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month.
So, the daughters of the, I just went blank. Val, Daughters of the American Revolution are here to accept this proclamation. So,
I would like to thank the City Council and Mayor Randall for once again issuing the proclamation to recognize Native American Heritage Month. But we're here for another reason. And so just one bit of business to conduct. In fact, Mayor Randall, it might be a shock and awe moment for you.
Well, my whole family just walked in, so I'm like, did somebody die and they're coming to tell me somebody died and I didn't know?
So let me explain. Every year, chapters are encouraged to recognize any woman or group of women in their local community who have made history or some sort of significant contributions. And this woman can either be in the past or the present. Obviously, we're recognizing someone in the present. And Madam Mayor, you certainly made history when you became the first female to lead the City of St. George. Thus, plus so much more that we want to share. But the long story short of it is we nominated you with the following statement that we sent to our National Society. Keep in mind that we're only allowed to use 100 words, which is really tough. And in your case, there was so much that we could surf the internet for to plead our case, to recognize you. And we thought it was particularly fitting in the month of October that we do this. because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And of course, you see all my ladies here, they're dressed in pink. We have another lady that needs to come up here. So let me read what we put in those 100 words. For the first time in the 159-year history of St. George, Utah, Michelle Randall became the first female mayor sworn into office January 2021. Since 2014, she has served as a councilwoman. In 2019, during a routine mammogram, breast cancer was discovered. Her surgical journey was a public one, and you became the spokesperson for Intermountain Healthcare, advocating the importance of having annual mammograms. As mayor, you led the effort for the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument that will soon be unveiled, the first actually to be in Utah, which I think is monumental. And you approved the first citywide bell ringing event observing Constitution Week. And we could have gone on and on and on, but this statement was supported with oodles of supporting documentation. And now we would like to present you, Madam Mayor, the DAR Women in American History Award from Color Country Chapter, and to pin this very nice medal on you.
Thank you, Val.
Now, where would you like me to pin it? On your lapel? Yeah. It's very pretty, red, white, and blue.
Yes.
And it has, it says Women in American History, and it has a woman on it. And so, I'm really terrible at doing this, by the way. I gotta find a spot.
Or breaking them.
Breaking them. So I'm trying not to do that. So, was it a shock and awe moment?
It was a shock and awe moment. I saw my family walked in and I was shocked and awed.
And it comes with us.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Val. We'll get them after this, okay? And you ladies stay, and my family come up behind us really quick. Yeah, my parents are here, and each one of my children are here, and my sister's here.
And Christina was very good at keeping a secret.
Yes, she obviously was. And my youngest grandson.
Oh, this is so awesome. Wait a minute, David.
And my husband.
All right. Yes. Wow. You have a big family.
Oh, this is only part of them. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Yeah. Here's the box that it comes in. We have one other thing.
Okay.
So I mentioned the Constitution Day event. Was that a fantastic day?
That was an awesome event.
And so we just want to present you with this also. For it reads, Daughters of the American Revolution Constitution Week Committee Certificate Award is presented to St. George Mayor Michelle Randall in recognition of outstanding work in upholding and promoting the ideals of the Constitution of the United States. So thank you for supporting that. Thank you for supporting Constitution Day. Oh, and the proclamation? Oh, Jimmy, you read it. I hope we're not taking up too much time.
David, you want to get a picture of them?
be giving this to the Shivwitz tribe for their community center. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
I didn't even put two and two together that you were all wearing pink. So thank you for wearing pink. And ladies, get your mammograms if you haven't had your mammogram. It's a good reminder this month to go get your mammogram. And Randall Clan, thank you for being here. Love you all. Shirlane.
So that's a tough act to follow. So we are here today to say thank you to TDS. Brenda Cody is here, and Tyler, come on up. So, oh my God, I didn't know that was coming. So this is on the consent calendar, but the Housing Action Coalition was approached by Brenda and TDS a couple of months ago, and they asked if they could donate to our efforts for HAC to create more attainable housing in the Washington County area. And so on the consent calendar tonight is just an agreement to accept that donation. The city is accepting it on behalf of HAC, and it will go to specifically to support housing initiatives in the Washington County area for the Housing Action Coalition. So I'm going to turn the mic to Brenda and Tyler, and it looks like they might have some fun things for us to look at too.
Thank you, Charlene. So we all know attainable housing has become an increasingly hot topic, and it's become even more increasingly hot during COVID. TDS wants to be part of this solution. We want to help young families, teachers, our general workforce be able to afford housing in this community that we all love. And we want to donate $20,000 to help with those efforts. So we're hoping that this is just a start of a partnership with us in the city and the Housing Action Coalition. So thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course, like in usual fashion, I didn't prepare anything. Thank you, Brenda, for that. So what it means to me and for us at TDS is it's just our commitment to the community. We're great corporate citizens, and this is what we're about. So we're just super happy to be able to do this, and we look forward to seeing the great things that we're able to attain. So thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. That's just amazing.
You want to come down? That's really why I'm here, is to hold this.
Yeah, I can't hold it. It's too big.
And the muscle, that's it. You want to grab the other side?
I will grab the other side.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll hide behind it. Yeah, we'll hide behind it.
Thank you. And Brenda, I also just want to acknowledge the fact that this completely came out of the blue for us. Brenda's just been following what we do. She shows up to our roundtables. She participates in the conversation. And she came and said, I have money that I can contribute to the community in ways that are going to make a difference. And this is what I want to submit to my national office, you know, for some of my budget this year. So thank you for doing that, because it does make a difference, and it's going to go directly to a positive impact in our community.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Tyler. Renee. Last the best, right, of pre-agenda items?
Because I have free stuff. So every year we celebrate Public Power Week, the first week in October, and this is the second year we ran our Spark in the Dark game. So we had the 4 age groups, the watts, which were the little kids, then the kilowatts, the megawatts, and the gigawatts. So and the most fun one was the megawatt one, because they ran around town looking at some of our facilities and finding out a little bit more about what we do for our community. We're really proud to be a public power community and owned by the people that we provide our power to. So I want to keep it brief. So I wonder if Matthew Anderson, did he? Okay. So I had a lot of fun saying, and you are a winner, on my email.
So what did he participate in?
The adult game. So the scavenger hunt. if there's anything you wanted to say. And we're giving out Galaxy tablets to the winners.
Wow. Very cool. Congratulations.
And then Sherry is another adult, but I cannot say her last name without really ruining it. And I'm not sure if she wasn't sure if she'd make it. So I'm guessing not. That's okay. They can come to my office tomorrow. They still have to get their picture taken. Kai, which was one of the kids, one of the younger ones. And I can't say this last name, Kaufusi. Okay.
Kafusi.
Kafusi, thank you. And the last one is Cashlyn Mendenhall.
That's you.
So guess what game she played? Cashlyn, this is your tablet. Thank you for playing the game.
Congratulations.
The students that were Cashlyn's age learned more about electrical safety. It goes along with their curriculum for their school. So that was the funnest one for me to develop because I like those little kids.
That's awesome.
So thank you.
Thanks for participating. Congratulations to the winners.
Mayor,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
just a personal note. Best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you.
And with your father, and just know I was texting the mayor to let her know, and I didn't do it quick enough, but
Obviously not.
I appreciate that.
Renee, you mean a lot to the St. George City family, and your family does too, and so all the best to you and your family.
And I will say working for the city is very helpful because I can go to doctor appointments with my dad and his wife and help be some moral support. And I truly appreciate this. I went through it with my husband. The city's been very good to me in helping me deal with these things. Thank you.
We'll pray for you, Renee.
Thank
you. Adam, is there any changes to our agenda?
Just one. When we looked at the agenda, we realized that item 19 is related to item 6, and so we would suggest as soon as you complete item 6 that you go to item 19, and then we come back to the order of the agenda.
Okay.
But that's the only change that we have tonight. For the consent calendar, we have the 5 items that are listed there. We've reviewed all of these. They comply with all city standards. Staff recommends approval.
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, and I should excuse Councilwoman Larkin. She is out of town and not with us today.
Okay, item 2 is a public hearing and consideration of a subdivision amendment for lots 8 and 9 of Bella Vista at Sunbrook by merging said lots together into one lot, along with the common area between said lots to be known as Lot 8. So basically, this was Lot 9 here, Lot 8 with common area in between. Common area is considered a public utility and drainage easement, and so by merging the two, you're actually vacating that public utility easement, which is really common area, and that's the purpose of amending in that plat.
Questions for Wes, Council? So this is a public hearing, so if there is anybody who has come to comment on this item, number 2 on our agenda, and like to come forward? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, to make a motion that we approve a subdivision amendment for lots 8 and 9 of the Bella Vista at Sunbrook by merging said lots together into one lot, along with the common area between said lots to be known as Lot 8.
I'll second that.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a consideration of a public hearing of a subdivision amendment for lots 10, 11, and 12 of Southwood Meadows subdivision. Basically, the request is to adjust the lot lines and to vacate a portion of the utility and drainage and irrigation easement and grant new easements, basically to match the existing fence that was built on the ground. So it's these 3 lots right here, and they're just adjusting these property lines here to match existing conditions on the ground, how they were actually built. By doing that, we're vacating the easements as they were shown on the original plat and establishing new ones along those lot lines there.
Questions for Wes? This too is a public hearing, so anybody who has come to comment on item number 3, I'll open the public hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Come back to you, council, for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve a subdivision amendment for lots 10, 11, and 12, Southwood in Southwood Meadows subdivision by adjusting the lot line.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Brian. It's like, what's your name? Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good evening. Get this back up to the front.
Hi,
here.
Carol. We
Hi.
always like your presentations. Someday the guys are going to get up to speed with you. Wes is shaking his head. Nope, never. Look how pretty they are, Wes.
Not anymore. Okay, we are up to item number 4, which is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural to PDR, planned development residential, on approximately 39.81 acres located east of 3000 East Street and south of Merrell Road, also known as Mall Drive. And this is to be known as the Park at Temple View. All right, so this one and then the next 2 items are all going to be about the same area. We've got 3000 East here and Mall Drive as it turns into Merrell. The new temple for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is being built here. I'm sure everyone's seen it because it's quite large. But we've got a development coming in all along this swath of land here. So this first one that we're going to talk about is this one right up here close to Merrell Road. This one says 41 acres, but it's really just under 40. The general plan is medium density residential for this area. Kind of had to stretch it a little bit. And the zone, as I mentioned, is A1 agricultural. So this is the proposal. This is a new kind of a mixed use here with not commercial, but different types of housing units. 268 units they're proposing to put here, 6.52 dwelling units per acre. Just kind of zoomed it in so you could see it a little bit better and kind of turned it. So we've got Merrell Road up here. This is what they're proposing. These units in red, those are going to be single family homes. Everything in blue will be duplexes. And then we'll complete it out with some townhomes intermixed in the development. They will be having amenities, and I'll just point out that all of this will be rentals. This will be owned by one property owner, and these will all be rentals. Because this is a PDR, they do plan to have plenty of amenities. They've got a pool with clubhouse. Up towards the north, they will have pickleball courts, they will have a couple playgrounds, and then to complete it, they will have a dog park down towards the southeast. Something that's unique about this entire development is they plan to keep the corridor between the temple all the way up to Merrell Road open. So that all the neighbors can go there. They plan on doing pathways, trails, so they'll all be able to have a good view if it gets blocked by their neighbors. Parking, each unit will have its own parking. Some of the units have single car garages, but most of them will have double car garages. They are providing guest parking. They do meet the parking regulations. Landscaping, I know it shows a lot of green, but they do understand the water issues that we are having now, and this next slide shows that their turf area will be about 7% of their total landscaping. So they are conscious of keeping the turf down. As far as access goes, there will be 2 full movement access, one off of Merrell and then one here off of 3000 East, and then kind of a circulation plan within the neighborhood. There will be 2 phases shown here, and then they are asking at this time for a sign variation. They're wanting 2 signs on both of the arterial roads, one on Merrell and one on 3000 East Street. We do only allow 1, so they're wanting to add 1 more to flank the sides of the streets. And then also our maximum height is 10 feet, but they can get a variation for taller, and they want to go 15 feet on that. This kind of shows you what they have in mind. This next 3 slides are kind of showing, what their monument signs will look like. Now for the fun part, the pictures. This is kind of a concept plan for their pool house or their clubhouse. And then we go into the homes. This is a single-family home, 2-story. Some other pictures of it. A single-family or 1-story single-family home. Some more pictures. And then this is one of the duplexes, single-family one. And then this is a townhome, but it's really just 2 duplexes put together with 2 stories and 2 single stories on the outside. We did take this before the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval with the condition that, and approval of the variation with the condition that they meet all the other required items. And the applicants are here if you have any questions, or if you have any questions for me, I'm available.
Council, questions for Carol, questions for the applicants?
Yeah, I'll go comment, and then I have a question. The comment is, I think this is something that's definitely needed in southern Utah. Rental properties in the form of duplexes and townhouses. I think it's a great location. I like the layout. I think it's great. So I'm excited about this.
The applicants they specifically wanted to give land for rentals, because most rentals you don't really get much land, so you have no outdoor space, and so they made an effort to do that, and it does look quite nice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The one question, and I'm gonna ask a question. It'll relate to this, but it's not on the agenda tonight, but it relates, and that's the missing piece that we have.
Oh yes.
Do we have any information on what that will look like, or the missing piece would be in between the of south of this? And the reason I want to bring it up is that the best? I guess the question is just as a discussion topic. I think multifamily housing is good. Mm-hmm. Just in that location, how high are we going? Because we're in an area right in the middle of an area where the majority of everything is 2-story, and just something just curious about that. Is we want to take that in consideration as we look at this.
Yeah, and we don't have plans at this time. We did have plans for this, so we're bringing it forward, but we expect to see something here in the near future, though.
Okay.
But we understand your concerns about the heights.
Question for engineering, if you don't mind. Wes, could you speak to the traffic on 3000 East? This is a lot of units. 3000 East is already incredibly busy. Can you tell us, first of all, the access that they have shown here onto 3000 East, is that matching up to a platted intersection on the west side?
Yeah, you mean for this development right here?
Correct.
Yeah, in fact, as part of this development right now, they're doing a traffic study. As Cameron and I looked at it, we kind of looked at the spacing. There's a signal here on 1140. There's one right here on Merrell. Where would, if you were going to do one more, the possibility of another one, and it would be right here. It lines up with the Woodland Patio homes and then their access here, and so they line up. So they're doing a traffic study right now to verify and see the impact and of this development, not only this, but the proposed commercial and this residential down here, and see if a traffic signal is necessary, and what triggers that traffic signal. And so they are in the midst of doing a traffic study right now, and it'll be part of the condition of the development.
Just frankly, I cannot see how a traffic signal would not be required there with the amount of traffic that's already on that road. I would expect that this development would need to participate. And then that leads to my next concern. I know that we're going to talk about the commercial that's on the northwest there, but if the signal is going to end up being the access that they're showing as part of this project, I think we'd want to figure out how to tie that commercial into that road.
Right.
And I'm not seeing that. Maybe there is that entrance there, but no, that's not an entrance.
No,
so
you're not seeing it, and we did meet with the developers today right here on the commercial, as there were some other items, and they did talk about, and they recognized the fact that it would be good to tie that commercial into that road right there to get them to a signal, so such that their clientele can make a left turn out on the 3000 East, because that's the movement that would be very difficult to make, and so they're aware of that, and they're looking at options there as far as how to address that. Yep.
So at what point in our process would that be finalized?
I think we look at it at the traffic study and see what that indicates as far as right now, and I need to get back with the traffic engineer. Right now, they're not looking at, they're only looking at the access locations right here coming out of the commercial and right here and maybe one down here. But I need to get back with them and ask them to look at the impact, if that's, if we can make that connection, what that does, and does it help with the traffic that comes out of that.
So we could expect to see that with the preliminary plat?
Well, that's a good question, because this is not being platted because it's all rental. We do have the preliminary plat on tonight for the commercial. So it's something we could condition and see how the traffic study plays out.
Because a preliminary plat vests the applicant with a road configuration. I think it'd be important to make sure that that's covered.
Okay. And that's something we
maybe the developer would like to address that for us?
Yeah, if you would like to.
My name is David Hicks with City Creek Development, or PRI. Can you repeat your question? I apologize.
We're concerned about the traffic. You've got an extremely busy road on 3000 East. There's commercial development that you're now planning on the corner, and then this development with all the townhomes and residential. You're likely only going to get one other access onto 3000 East, and it's the one that you're showing as part of this development. Right now, the way that's designed, it lines up nicely with the one on the west side. I want to make sure, number one, that this development for our staff is going to be participating with the traffic signal, but I also think that there's a concern about the access that this commercial development adjacent to this would have getting to a traffic signal.
Thank you. Dan McKay, Suburban Land Reserve, and since Suburban Land Reserve is developing the commercial as well as the remainder property, maybe we're helpful to happily help. We share your concern with the access issues and are certainly willing to work with staff to try and solve those problems, because I think obviously having full control into a commercial area is definitely beneficial for the commercial areas for its viability. And so we want to make sure that we're solving that problem, and I think our interests are in line in that direction. I think we've talked about having a traffic engineer come in and do the traffic counts and try to figure out where the best locations for those questions might be, and let the data help us drive that decision. But I don't know if I don't want to, Mr. Lenhart. But I think what we want to see is making sure that we're planning that intersection in a way that doesn't inhibit traffic moving north, i.e., timing it for the light. This happened at another commercial development that we're working with, where the light's red at one part while the light's green up there, and everybody, the intersection is cleared and the light's still red back here. And so we end up, actually exacerbating the problem by doubling the traffic lights on that intersection. So I just think making sure that the data helps us drive that decision, I think, will be the most important part as we're kind of moving forward with preliminary plat and planning out that. And we're happy to, work with you on that for sure.
Thank you. So then, again, back to staff then, at what point would you cover this so that we haven't vested the project and then lost our ability to get perhaps a much-needed traffic improvement on our streets?
Well, I think we would just condition it on the approval of this and the commercial preliminary plat before they get their construction drawings approved. We determine exactly when that signal would, what would trigger that signal if it isn't required. Yeah.
I recognize Mr. Lenhart's concern, and I want you to know from our side, we're committed to working with the city to help solve the problem. It isn't a question of whether or not it's financial a problem, and we're committed, and if the council wants to make that a condition that be considered and fully proved out, prior to getting final plat, we're happy to move forward and get that looked at. We'll start the traffic engineer and get those guys started pretty quickly. But I think staff is already looking at that question with the traffic engineer as well. So maybe we'll coordinate with the two, but we're happy to have it be a condition and keep working together.
So I think there would be two ways you could do that. If you felt it was significant enough that you wanted to see at least just the resolution part as a council, you could have it come back, or you could approve it with that condition and assign the city manager to look at it and give his approval of the final recommendation of the staff.
Yeah, perhaps I'm not communicating well. The biggest concern that I have is that later on this agenda that we've got items that are in front of the council that are going to vest the applicant with road configurations, at which time we have no more leverage to get access from the commercial to this signalized intersection, what I assume will be a signalized intersection. That's all. Just want to make sure that we allow ourselves, all of us, the flexibility to be able to do that so that it serves both of those developments optimally.
So you've used a word that I haven't had to use in St. George in a long time, the leverage word. I just want you to know we're committed community partners. And so whatever, we will help the city meet the needs. Obviously, the only concern, and as you've highlighted it, it's already busy traffic. And so requiring maybe the landowner to, contribute above and beyond what its percentage would be the addition of its users, so to speak, might be a question for us, but even then, it's not a question of leverage, Mr. Lenhart. For us, it's a question of how can we help you.
And of course, we wouldn't ask you to do more than your fair share.
Yep. So,
but you understand the issue, though. Once
Absolutely.
You're vested with the streets configuration, then we're on to other issues, and we don't get to revisit that. So it makes sense for us to understand what we're agreeing to.
We've been friends a long time.
We have, and we appreciate that.
I think we'll still be friends afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, I'm convinced you won't need the leverage word for us. We're happy to help you figure it out. But that said, an approval that has that condition doesn't scare us.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sean, if the council is so inclined to approve this with the conditions.
Regarding I would leave that to our city manager to outline, but it is either the need for a signal or location of the roads, which are overall on all of these projects.
Both.
Because here's what I imagine as we go through these together, and I'm looking over at the SLR people to see if they're nodding their heads, is that you're probably going to have those same concerns. It sounds like that's what the city manager is saying. And so I think if you want to take that route where you're saying, let's articulate what our concerns are and vest the city manager with that responsibility of working it out and signing off on the final location of all of those, then Adam, I'd have you spell out what you think those should be in the condition.
And is that after the traffic study comes back?
Right, we would need that for sure. I mean, that's what this would be based on.
So condition with the traffic,
On the traffic study and
study.
Staff recommendations signed as approved by the city manager.
Adam, with your concern, are you okay with us approving? Is that you feel comfortable us approving that way, or would you rather see it come back after the traffic study is through, so we can have that before we put it on your plate?
No, it was said very well. We've always been able to work through these issues. This is more, in my mind, a procedural issue where we've got a number of different applications that are all in the same geographic area. I still think there's a missing connection that we're going to wish we had in place for the commercial to be able to access that other signal. I think if we don't do it, we're going to regret it. And as it's designed right now, there's no connection to that signal that I anticipate will be required. And of course, their share would only be whatever they're adding to it. But if we don't address that, I think we're missing a really important opportunity for all of us. And that includes everybody who lives there eventually and shops at that shopping center. We're going to want it to be successful. I'm sure it will be. It's going to be busy. And if we don't address it, we're going to regret it.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Would you like to see, are you comfortable with us saying it's okay to move forward and then with your approval once the data comes in, or would you like to see this held back until the data comes in? And then
No, I think we can move forward with the condition. I'm absolutely certain we'll reach a solution. This is procedural. This is as far as the items that come to council, as you're aware, there's only a certain number of items that come in, and in the order that those get presented to you and approved, we just have to make sure that we have allowed ourselves to be able to address that issue. And that's all.
And I agree with that explanation. And just know this, this is why we did away with the final plats coming to you, just by making it easier to just put these conditions on. But if for some reason the city manager was not able to come to an agreement with them, he can always say, okay, then we're going to take it to the council for final plat approval. He can still do that.
Oh, great.
Okay, I think we all understand the issue, correct? So I think we can get there. Yeah, so procedurally, just allow us the ability to still resolve that issue in a manner that's proportionate to the impact they're creating.
Okay.
Anyone want to take a stab at it?
I don't mind trying if I understood everything correctly, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural to PDR planned development residential on approximately 39.81 acres located east of 3000 East Street and south of Merrell Road, conditioned on the traffic study review and the city manager's review and approval for the need and or location of a traffic signal and the coordination thereof.
With the commercial development as well.
Thank you, with the commercial development as well.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor. This is an ordinance calling for a roll call vote, starting with Jimmy.
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to item number 5, which is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural to R110 single-family residential with a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet on approximately 44.73 acres located east of 3000 East between 1180 South and 1580 South. So this is going to be called the SLR Fields Project. Okay, so back to this image here of our location. Now we're going to be talking about this property that's further down south. And basically what we have is just over 44 acres right along the border. I'm sure you saw some annexation stuff that might happen in the future, but not right now. We're just going to talk about what's in St. George's limits. So the general plan is LDR, low density residential, and then the current zone is A1. So what they want to do is turn this to R1, and on the picture before you kind of saw, they're not required to have any kind of layout, but they have been working with layouts. All of these lots actually will be over the 10,000 square foot limit. So this did go to Planning Commission. They did recommend approval of this, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Carol or the applicant?
You ready for a motion?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do this. This hurts. Taking agricultural land. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the ordinance changing the zone from A1 to R110, single-family residential on approximately 44.73 acres, located east of 3000 East and Merrell Road, isn't it? Or 1180 South.
Yeah, between 1180 South and 1580 South.
Perfect. Does that work?
Yep.
They don't care.
Second.
They're busy. Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Brian. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 6. This is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural to PDC planned development commercial on approximately 11.42 acres located on the southeast corner of Merrell Road or Mall Drive and 3000 East. And this will be known as the Fields at Mall Drive Phase 3 or Fat Cats. And I used to have a cat, and the cat's name was Fat Cat. That was the best cat I ever had. Okay, moving on to our aerial here. We are talking about the small corner up here at the top, right across the street from Lynn's. 11.42 acres, and the general plan does pretty much cover this area to be changed over to commercial from residential. And the zoning, as you can see, we do have some commercial to the west, and then the rest is agricultural. So here's what the applicants are planning on doing. They're planning on putting in a 5-lot subdivision, but right now they only have, we're just really seeking approval for the architectural plans of the Fat Cat, or the conceptual plans of the Fat Cats. Staff has looked through their application, and there's a few things that are missing, but we'll ensure that they take care of those during the site plan review process. This is kind of a little bit of a conceptual plan. There will be residential along this side, which is the east side, and then the south side. So they will be needing to do buffering. So if there's anyone in this room that does not know what a Fat Cats is, I'm here to tell you right now. Fat Cats is where you go to play arcade games, or you can go bowling, or you can do mini golf, or watch a movie and watch another movie. So this is kind of their preliminary floor plans of what they're doing. It will be an indoor entertainment venue with lots of options. I do have some photos of a similar Fat Cats. This was just opened in July in Queen Creek, Arizona. So this is kind of similar to what they're wanting to do here. So one of the theater rooms, the screen of the theater room. Here's the bowling alley, concession stand, and then now we're moving on to the elevations. We've got the north side. This is what you'll see on Merrell Road, and then the west elevation, this is what you will see along 3000 East. And then the south, these ones will be up against the residential. There are some building material pictures here. Those little blackboards there, if you want to see it in person, what they want to do. Here's some ideas. This is the Queen Creek Fat Cats, so it's just kind of showing what their landscape will be like. They do have residential, just like this location here, so this is kind of like the buffer, what that will look like. Some more pictures. Staff obviously will work with them on that. As far as parking goes, the applicant turned in everything that's in black. And then staff came in red, and we just kind of figured out how many spaces they would actually need according to our regulations. The parking lot actually has 435 spaces, and they're required to have 395, so they definitely meet parking. They did provide a use list. This is just typical retail, service business, commercial businesses going on here. I didn't see any that were alarming. We did take this to the Planning Commission. They recommended approval of this. Their condition was that obviously they meet all the requirements found in Section 10-8D. And once again, the applicants are here if you have any additional questions.
Did the applicants bring popcorn?
We've got popcorn.
It looks good. When you haven't had dinner and you're staring at popcorn. Yeah. Council, any questions for Carol or the applicants? So it'll be good to have something on that side of town, entertainment-wise.
So is our traffic stuff sufficiently tied to the previous one that we don't need to include that here? Or what's your thought?
I think so. I'm comfortable either way. I think we've covered it. We understand the issue. I think we're committed to finding a solution there.
I'm ready for motion if one of you are.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I make a motion we approve the ordinance changing the zone from A1 to PDC on approximately 11.42 acres located on the southeast corner of Merrell Road and 3000 East.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, starting with Jimmy.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, so item 19, as was indicated, is let me see right here, is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 5-lot commercial subdivision. As Carol indicated, the fields at Mall Drive Phase 3, size located intersection of Mall Drive and 3000 East. Property is 11.42 acres, zoning's PDC. Applicant is Suburban Land Reserve. So here's where it's located. So just to give you some perspective, so right down here is 1140 South, and right now the city has a project as part of the extension of 1450 South to the east and the improvements on 3000 East. They have a storm drain line that will end up about right there, and it's about an 8-foot diameter storm drain line. So right now the project ends there. However, the future extension of this storm drain line will come up, and that's partially what it'll line up. As Carol indicated, they have that open corridor all the way through there that gives you a view down to the temple. In that corridor, there will be an 8-foot diameter storm drain line that will come up something like that. It'll turn and come up something like that. And so as part of this preliminary plat, so north is to your that way, whatever that way is, my left. Anyway, so the storm drain line will actually come up through there, so they'll be required, we'll need a 50-foot easement for that storm drain line right through there. It will come up, and then it will discharge into this area right here. So we met with the developer today. We were working with him. You can see parcel A, and then this parcel is owned by the city. We've discussed about whether or not, and right over here, there are two 54-inch storm drain lines coming from Washington. So you're coming into this, I don't even know the term for it, where they come together. Anyway, they're all coming together right there. So we're trying to determine whether or not this stays in as an open channel, similar to what's on the north side of the Lens project, or whether we pipe all three through there and allow it to be buried. And so we're still working with them. So that this preliminary plat would be conditioned on the developer working with staff, obviously, in working out the 50-foot easement that would be required for the storm drain line, and then the design of whether it's a canal or whether they're piped, and the necessary property that the city will need to be able to own and maintain that for those storm drain lines. So that'll be a condition of approval. They'll also be required to provide a deceleration lane right here from 3000 East into the project. Currently, the city's actually doing the improvements right here along Mall Drive, as they had this bid out quite a while ago, and they'll just build that in there, but the developer will be required to dedicate that decel lane to the city as part of the preliminary plat. And then, as we were discussed, this is right here is the intersection where the possible traffic signal would go, is right there.
Wes, oh my gosh, that was loud, woke me up. Quickly mention the conditions of approval. You've got the dedication of the decel lane. What was the one before that?
We'll need a 50-foot easement through there for the 8-foot diameter culvert that comes up through there, and then working with staff to either design a ditch that goes through there or pipe the 3 pipes through there and allow them to bury it. We're kind of working through that. It's a lot of water coming together at once, and so what's the best way to get it to 3,000 and underneath those culverts under 3,000? We're just kind of working that out still.
Council, any questions for Wes? Did you get those conditions? Ready for motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion we approve the preliminary plat for the fields at Mall Drive Phase 3, 5-lot commercial subdivision located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Mall Drive and 3000 East, with the conditions mentioned by staff. That would include giving dedicating the decel lane. What else do we have?
Dedicating the decel lane, the developer working with the city staff to acquire a 50-foot easement for that area, that storm drain line on the east side of the project, and then working with staff to either pipe or build a channel through there and the property necessary to be able to own and be able to maintain that storm drain improvement.
So moved as stated.
There you go.
Second.
I tried to help you guys out. I had him state those, but you know.
It's always good to hear it again. That was good.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item number 7. Consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from R4 multifamily to C3 commercial on approximately 0.26 acres located at 45 South and 800 East, known as the Hope Pregnancy Care Center. So here's an aerial view of the project. You can see 800 East here, project's outlined right there. The general plan map designation is commercial. And the zoning map, you can see here, as mentioned, is R4. To the north and to the west is C3. With that, we can answer any questions or...
Questions for Mike? No questions? Then I'm ready for motion.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance changing the zone from R4 to C3 on approximately 0.26 acres located at 45 South, 800 East, known as the Hope Pregnancy Care Center.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Just one thing, is the applicant going to be offended if they don't have to say anything? You good? Yep. Okay. All right. If you don't know what the Hope Center does, you got to go check it out. It's pretty awesome. We're done. Yeah.
Okay. I'm waiting.
Crickets.
All right. So the next item is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from R110 single-family residential, minimum 10,000 square foot lot, to PDC, Planned Development Commercial, on approximately 8.83 acres located at 900 South River Road, to be known as 900 South Properties. So here's an aerial view of the proposed area. You have River Road and 900 South there to the north. The general plan designation is commercial. And the zoning map, as was mentioned, is zoned R110. Then here's just a site plan of the different properties involved in this proposal. Here's the proposed use list that was in your packet. And with that, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the removal of the item storage units off of the use list. And then in the future, if they want to come back or whatever, they can do a zone change amendment and propose that at that time. And with that, I can answer any questions. Or
Questions for Mike? If no questions, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from R110 to PDC on approximately 8.83 acres located at 900 South River Road to be known as 900 South Properties, with the condition that we remove storage units from the use list.
I'll second that.
Motion by Bardell, seconded by Greg. All in favor, starting with Jimmy.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, item number 9. Consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from R110 single-family residential 10,000 square foot minimum lots to open space on approximately 37.24 acres located at 1400 East and Riverside Drive. So here you can see the area. The majority of the property is in the river area. This is kind of a cleanup item to move it to open space. This lighter blue area is floodplain designation. And then, of course, to the north portion, there is open space a little bit already. As mentioned, the zoning is R110. And with that, I can answer any questions.
I'll make a comment. I think that is an excellent location for open space. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we change the zone from R110 to open space on approximately 37.24 acres located approximately at 1400 East and Riverside Drive.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Bardell. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. So we are going to take about a 10 to 15 minute break, and then we will be back for the rest of our agenda.
Popcorn break.
John, you asked Mike to come up here. Hey, Mike.
All right, Mike, we'll resume with item number 10.
All right. So this is a consider approval of an ordinance amending the Boulder Creek Commons North PDC Plan Development Commercial Zone for a Quinchit Soda Snack Shop to be known as Quinchit on approximately 0.786 acres, located approximately at 1450 South and 1450 East. So here you can see the proposed location. There's the Maverick, you have River Road and 1450 South. The general plan map designation here is commercial, and the northern portion of it is in the floodplain. Since it is in the floodplain, they will be required to submit a erosion hazard study, and then also obtain a floodplain elevation certificate for that development. And then, as was mentioned, it is PDC zoning. Here's the site plan off of 1450 South. You can see they've worked with staff to provide a large area for stacking to try and keep it off the road. And then also they have a pedestrian access here on the northern portion to access the trail there along the river. Here's the elevations. And then the landscape. And with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Mike?
So when you say they've anticipated for stacking, I think we've seen what happens when that's not anticipated for. Can you just kind of review with us again what their plans are?
Yeah, so you can see here's 1450 South. People will come in, and then they circulate around the property here, and then they have 2 lanes over here, which will then eventually lead into one. So they have quite a bit of area to stack. But you're right, those types of businesses at certain times can have a lot of vehicles.
Yeah, the last thing we need is them stacking out onto 1450. But looks like they have a lot of room.
Yeah.
What's the stack count?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Looks like it has pretty high number.
Yeah. Say again.
12.
12?
Yeah, inside, where the double stacking starts at 12 from that point.
Okay. Oh, so right here.
Oh, okay. Good. Any questions for Mike, the applicant?
Then you just have to build up to make sure you come out of the floodplain, I guess. Is that the wall that's already there mitigates it, or?
Yeah, no, they'll have to build the ground up, and that's what that certificate, the floodplain elevation certificate is.
So then is that a condition of the approval tonight then? Or is that
no, but the Planning Commission did recommend approval, and with the one condition that they add a decel lane coming from the east to access into the property.
If no other questions, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Boulder Creek Commons North PDC zone for a Quinchit soda snack shop to be known as Quinchit on approximately .786 acres located at approximately 1450 South and 1450 East, with the condition that a deceleration lane be included in that approval.
Second.
Motion by Bardell, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, item number 11. Item number 11 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending 10.7B1 and 10.17A3 of City Code to clarify provisions regarding accessory dwelling units within a home's footprint as required by changes to the state code. So there are a couple of proposals in here. One is to meet state code. The other two are recommendations, and I'll go over those here in a second. So what we're talking about is a dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit. This is from the code. Subordinate residential living area created within a single-family dwelling or a detached building on the same residential lot as a single-family dwelling, which meets the requirements of 17A of this title. Specifically tonight, we're talking about a single-family dwelling. So the legislature this year, the state legislature, made some changes to their requirements that they passed along to the city. And actually, the city's code was quite forward-thinking when it was approved a couple of years ago. And so there's really not a lot of changes that need to be made. For a lot of cities, this is a big headache. But for the city of St. George, because of the way it was written when it was approved a couple of years ago, that's not the case. So I'll go over what we are recommending here. This is the proposed use table. You can see now under accessory dwelling unit right here, in R16 and R17, those are not allowed. We are recommending that they be changed. Anything anything over a 6,000 square foot lot, the state is now requiring that those that an accessory dwelling unit is allowed. So we're recommending that right here we add those permitted with standards, which will bring us to the next section of code. This is as it reads today. The proposal is, and that the strike through in red is what is required by code. The ones in blue are what are a couple of additional recommendations that we're making at this time. So if you look at letter F, it just says if an accessory dwelling unit is created within an existing garage or carport, parking spaces contained therein shall be replaced elsewhere on the property. We just want to make sure that if somebody creates an ADU and they take required parking to do it, that parking is then replaced somewhere else on the property. So that's what that is. The second thing that you see is the strike through in red. So no accessory dwelling unit shall occupy more than 40% of the gross square footage of the single family dwelling. This is the part that the state legislature approved this year, and they are basically saying that you can't regulate how much of your building is dedicated to that accessory dwelling unit. So we're recommending that be taken out. And then finally, C over here, we're recommending that some language be put in. And this is up to you if you want to talk about this, how you want to go. But another piece that you may want to consider is that in no case shall a detached accessory dwelling unit exceed the square footage of the primary structure on the property. So that would be for a detached building. Again, the state did not make any regulations regarding detached. So that's kind of just an extra thing that we're suggesting you may want to discuss and consider. But that is not required by state legislation. Dan? Yeah. So if it's attached?
Yes.
So if it's attached, you can't regulate it, but if it's detached, you can.
Yeah, they basically separated those two, attached and detached. And right now they've tackled the attached, and so that's why we're taking that section out, 1A. These other two are just
again, for you to discuss and decide if there's been some discussion about those things in the past. So if you feel like that's something you want to keep in there, that's great. If not, you can certainly remove those.
So in the state law, does it say anything about height?
They did no, because specifically they only tackled the what they are calling, what do they call them? Interior accessory dwelling units or something like that. It's basically just the ones that are inside the house.
So
and not any detached buildings.
So was there anything saying in here that that accessory dwelling unit cannot be higher than the existing dwelling or the primary dwelling?
Other than what's already in there, and that's so section G2D, which says the maximum height of a detached accessory building containing an accessory dwelling unit shall not exceed the height of the single-family dwelling on the property or exceed 25 feet in height, whichever is more. So that's, that's already in there.
Okay, so it's in there.
Yeah.
So it says it can't exceed the height of the single-family dwelling.
Either the height of the single-family home or 25, whichever is greater. So it could potentially.
So if the single-family dwelling isn't 25 feet, then it could exceed it.
Right. Yeah, it says whichever is more. So.
Is that something we could look at? I mean, is that something we can consider, or would that be negatively affecting us because of state law? I mean, saying that the accessory dwelling unit needs to, shouldn't be bigger than the original dwelling / shouldn't be taller than the original dwelling.
Yeah, that's certainly something you can look at. The state legislature didn't, like I say, it didn't regulate detached structures, just accessory dwelling units within the footprint of the home or attached to the home. So you can look at that as far as the detached goes. Yeah,
I mean, I don't necessarily love to restrict people on what they can do, but there's some of these that we've seen that, I mean, they just become a monstrosity. And one that we did recently, they're, next to my childhood home, the accessory dwelling dwarfs the home in front. And that may be a little different because that's historic property, and there's some other instances where I've seen where, you go in someone's backyard and because the accessory dwelling is so tall, it just looks like it's like they're living in a cave. So it might be something we could look at. I don't know. What do you guys think? Since I'm over here all alone. Danielle.
I'd agree with that. I think for the, we pride ourselves in a downtown, and I think the downtown is a lot of the places where this will be used, of a downtown that's historic, and I think that if the accessory dwelling units can match the homes that are there, I think I would agree with that.
So could we make D say that not to exceed, like it already says, and then just leave off the 25 feet, whichever is higher? There's more.
I think they're discussing.
Yeah, John's just confirming what I was thinking. You could actually just change D to say whichever is less instead of whichever is more. That way, it'll never exceed the height of the main structure. If it's less, if the house is 35 feet, you can't go more than 25 feet. If the house is 20 feet, you can't exceed the height of the house. So if you say less, whichever is less, you could just change that one word and it would, I think, accomplish what you're looking at doing.
That simplifies it.
I thought of something though as I was thinking about that. Sorry, thinking as I go. Because there are some instances where you might be in a walkout basement or a sloped lot where your accessory dwellings, and I'm thinking some of these bigger lots out in Little Valley, where your accessory dwelling maybe start out 10 feet below your house. But that would still be the structure, not necessarily
That's true.
unintended consequence.
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud. Smarter people over there. See what I'm saying?
In that case, the way we measure height is the two tallest sides. And so it'd be an average. And so if you did have, you could from the street potentially have a taller one because your back portion of your house is taller than your one story in the front. So there are scenarios that it could be a little bit taller.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my own house, even where I have a walkout basement and a lot of yard in the back. If I was put a garage there the same side of my house, same height as my house,
Yeah.
probably wouldn't fit my fancy trailer. Yeah, I'd love to have one, yeah.
It'd be the average of the highest, the two highest, and so there would be an average.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I see what you're saying. I don't know. I hate to create more problems too at the same time, but we do have some issues there when you look at some of these ADUs that have been put in and they become, they dwarf the main residence.
Yeah. You answered this earlier, and sorry for asking again. If it's detached and it's still an 800 square foot, that's the limit. Is that, am I reading that correctly in C? But if it's attached, then it just can't exceed the size of the.
Right.
What's attached mean? I mean, can you have a breezeway?
Yeah, there are standards for attached, actually. It has to be 12 feet. I think it's 12 connected by a shared wall that's at least 12 feet long. Then we would consider that attached. But a breezeway, no. It has to be more significant than just a breezeway.
Okay.
I would think that if we changed it to say whichever is less, and then when there are exceptions, they can, I guess, apply for a special waiver consideration. Is that not right?
You can't apply for.
Okay.
We'd have to write something specifically
CUP.
into the ordinance to allow
Okay.
that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
More questions?
I think less is I think that is great, but it does open the door to things, but maybe that's okay. I'm trying to think of all the, I mean, if it's, what are we protecting? Street appeal, I guess, or is it trying to protect backyards from other people? So having something too high, I think it's a pretty good compromise to do the less and then do the average.
Doing the less would make the accessory structure the same scale as the house, and you already have to meet the setbacks as you would the main structure. So it'd be the same scale, same setback as the primary house. And so I think you'd mitigate any of those impacts of having a 2-story with a 1-story house. You do have some scenarios where you may be able to go a little bit taller, but it's not going to be substantially taller when you look at taking the two averages.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's safe.
Yeah.
No, I think it's been said well. I mean, there's a lot of things, just a lot of circumstances that I don't know that we could anticipate all the way. I think you just have to pick the one that feels the best. And
And we did place the one criteria of it can't be bigger than the main house to try to address the situation where we had with the historic house. And so we tried to mitigate that issue that we'd had in the past also.
No more questions. I'm ready for motion.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending 10-7B-1 and 10-17A-3 of the City Code to clarify provisions regarding accessory dwelling units within a home's footprint as required by changes to the state code, with the modification that we reword it to section C, no, excuse me, to section D to read 25 feet in height. Excuse me, I'll read it all. The maximum height of a detached accessory building containing an accessory dwelling unit shall not exceed the height of the single-family dwelling on the property or exceed 25 feet in height, whichever is less.
I'll second that.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Greg. All in favor, starting with Brian.
Aye.
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 Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval to amend a hillside development permit to allow development on a portion of Lot 2 of the Banded Hills subdivision. So this, in 2018, this came to Hillside, obviously went to Planning Commission and Council, and basically this was the established Rockfall hazard line right here. This is Banded Hills Drive that leads up to the airport. And at that time, the engineer had done a study on the Rockfall and indicated that that was the hazard line. That's how the plat recorded. An individual has bought Lot 2, which is this lot right here, and you can see this is his house layout, and you can see the Rockfall hazard line right there as per the original preliminary plat. So they hired the engineer who did the original study. He indicated at the Hillside Committee meeting that he went out and did a more detailed study just of this lot. He indicated that when he originally did it, he just did a couple cross sections through here, and that established his line. With this lot, he came back in, he indicated, and did a few more cross sections through here to see if it could be tightened up. And he said, based on their study, and that's what this basically says right here, this letter from AGC indicated that the line could be moved to that location right there based on their more detailed study. And so this request is to amend the hillside permit for that Rockfall hazard line. And I guess if I was to liken it, it's similar to a floodplain where when they do a floodplain, they'll go out and they'll cut cross sections, you know, every so often, and then they establish it. That's why sometimes you see staff bring back in amendments to the floodplain line, is then they do a more detailed study on a piece of property. So that's the request, is to amend the hillside permit, to amend the lot line, or the Rockfall hazard line on that final plat.
Any questions? They're not digging into the hillside.
No, I know.
That was the question. I already verified that.
It's conveniently, the line got moved just conveniently right before where the house is. That's good. It's good. As long as the homeowner's aware of this, right, and still willing to make the purchase.
Homeowner's requesting it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then they know.
So it's amending the hillside
Development permit.
I'll go ahead and make a motion then, if you guys are okay with that.
Yep.
That we amend the hillside development permit to allow a development on a portion of Lot 2 of the Banded Hills subdivision to be known as Banded Hills Lot 2 hillside permit.
I'll second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, this is a request to consider approval of a hillside development permit for the Temple Springs Park improvements on approximately 10 acres located at 700 East and St. George at the terminus along the north side of St. George Boulevard. So this basically, there's 700 East right there. This is a city project. It does, as you can see right here, lie within the red lines indicate the trail. And so it does lie within the hillside. You can see the 40% slopes and then the 20 or 30. They do disturb a little bit of the 40 right through here and through here as part of this project. And then that's the layout right there. And Mark and Joseph are here if you'd like them to come up, have any questions for them on their project. The only conditions at Hillside were there's a Temple Spring right in this area here. And so the Hillside Committee requested that they get with the water department or whoever owns that spring and make sure that by constructing this trail, it would not impact the Temple Spring. And then the other thing they recommended that there are some retaining walls through here. They recommended that the walls kind of meet the texture and color match the surrounding area and so forth. That was their recommendations. But Mark and Joseph are here if you'd like to.
I will add, just for your information, that we have been in contact with the water department, so they are aware of it. They are working with the Parks Department to make sure that that water is not interfered with. So that's been addressed.
Good.
I know I worked with Ivor Fuller on this for a long time, and it's good to see it happening. So.
Yeah, super exciting. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
I make a motion to approve the Hillside development permit for Temple Springs Park improvements on approximately 10 acres located on 700 East Street at the terminus north of St. George Boulevard.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, 14, is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for Desert Providence, an 86-lot residential subdivision located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Desert Canyons Parkway and Castillo Drive in the Desert Canyons development. So here it is, right here. Here's Castillo right there. Coming here, here's Desert Canyons Parkway right along there. Here's your zoning is PDR. So this is the layout of the subdivision, Desert Canyons Parkway again, right here, the Fort Pierce Wash right here. The one thing about this is this line right here, it does lie within the erosion hazard line for the Fort Pierce, so they'll have to do erosion hazard study, and then any mitigation required per this study would be part of their development improvements. They also, this line right here is at the actual floodplain, floodway line currently as it sits. They did do a CLOMAR a number of years ago, which is basically they go through the FEMA process and get conditional approval based on the design of their development. And based on the design of their development that they did years ago, this would be the floodplain, floodway line right here once they go through the LOMAR process based upon their approved CLOMAR. So before any units can plat within that existing one, they'd have to go through the LOMAR process and get that approved to adjust the floodplain, floodway line right there. So that would be a condition of approval.
Questions for Wes?
We
try again.
As we look at these higher density BODs, are we happy with the street size and the parking? You know, the things we've been looking at on these with the depth of the parking and things like that, is everything's in line there?
Yeah, everything's in line. Yep.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Desert Providence, an 86-lot residential subdivision located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Desert Canyon Parkway and Castillo Drive in the Desert Canyons development.
With what condition, Wes?
With the condition of
the lots within the existing floodplain floodway line cannot record or plat until they go through the LOMAR process through FEMA and get approval.
As stated. So he says it better than I will.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next request is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for Desert Reserve Phase 3 lot, 19 lots residential subdivision located approximately at the intersection of Desert Canyons Parkway and Castillo Drive in the Desert Canyons development. So the one we just looked at sits right there. There's your zoning. So here's Desert Providence right here. This is Desert Reserve right here. Back when they did phases 1 and 2, they went through the Hillside process. They established these lines as the Rockfall lines. This one actually got left off. It's about right there. So this is the only one that encroached, and so they're leaving that outside of that lot. It would not be a part of that lot. It would remain part of the Hillside. They are proposing to build a ditch along the rear of these lots, right there, basically, that would collect the runoff from the hillside and then convey it to the street. They've indicated that they'll put that in an association so that the association can own and maintain that ditch right there.
Questions for Wes?
Does that ditch sit above the houses, or?
Yeah, it does. So if you look right there, you can see that this is the pad grade right here. This is the pad grade right here. And so it does. The ditch would sit up above with the walls, the retaining walls, all along the rear of the property.
How high?
Well, this one's a 2-tier wall, so you got the maximum you can go is 16 feet. So it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 16 feet on that one, and then this would a maximum height for a single is an 8-foot high wall. So some would be somewhere between the 0 and 8 feet, and some 8 to 16 feet.
And that doesn't trigger Hillside ordinance on that, or it's already been approved?
It
through
already
Hillside?
went through Hillside, yeah, a while back. Back when they did Desert Reserve 1, 2, they took this one at the same time. That's why they've already established the Rockfall hazard lines, because they established that at that time. They did a study that was part of the phases 1 and 2. Yep.
Any other questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve a preliminary plat for Desert Reserve Phase 3, a 19-lot residential subdivision located at approximately the intersection of Desert Canyons Parkway and Castillo Drive in the Desert Canyons development.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for Desert Solace Phase 4, a 21-lot residential subdivision located along the future extension of Rim Runner Drive at approximately 4200 East in the Desert Canyon development. So you can see the Southern Parkway here. You can see the Arizona border here. So it's kind of on the very westerly side of their development right now. There is a wash that comes right down through there that they will leave open. So there's your zoning. And that wash sits right here. So they will be channelizing it a little bit, so they'll build in more of a defined boundary on that. They'll have to provide erosion protection along that wash to protect it now that they're doing that. So here's the wash that comes off of Arizona. They'll collect that and pipe it underneath and into that, and then it goes out towards the Southern Parkway.
Any questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat of Desert Solar Phase 4, lot 21 lot residential subdivision located along the future extension of Rim Runner Drive and approximately 4200 East and Desert Canyon development.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, 17, is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for Palermo Pass at DeVario, 189-lot residential subdivision located within the DeVario development at the intersection of future extension of Alienta Drive and the future extension of DeVario Canyon Drive. So this is where it's located on your map right here. Maybe there's my image right there. Again, that shows your zoning R110. So this is where it's located within the DeVario development. So the sewer, actually, I just had them add that drawing so you could see. So the sewer, actually, here's PA 6, will actually have to be installed down the future extension of DeVario Canyon Drive and then go through there. There's a hill right here that they'll have to cross through. It might be right here. I can't quite remember. Anyways, they'll either have to bore it or open cut that. If they open cut it, they'll have to go through, if they want to open cut it, they'll have to go through the Hillside process. Otherwise, they will be required to bore it and then install it right through there. They also will be required to improve Alienta Drive over here to Gap Canyon Parkway. And so their proposal is just to do the center portion of the road for now. Future development would develop it along these lines as they develop. And then this is a park property that they're going to dedicate to the city, a community park. They would be, they would not be building that. They would have the park property develop that when it develops right there. They also have, this is kind of unique in a residential subdivision. This is the road that leads up to the water tank. Let's see about my picture. It leads up to this water tank right there. There's 2 lines in there right now, and so they actually have double fronted lots, which we usually don't see in residential, and we try to dissuade people from doing that because then it requires the landscape strip and the privacy wall that would be along the rear. However, as they laid out their subdivision, they felt like they were constrained because of that road that leads up there and the already existing utilities that feed the tank. So they would, these would be double-fronted lots with a privacy wall and landscape strip. However, they do have a master HOA that could maintain that. The ordinance requires that either an HOA maintain that or you find somebody else to maintain it. It can't be the private property owned. It can't be the individual units that would own it. So that they would have that double-fronted lot road through there. There is a fair amount of grade change through this. Some of it's driven by the road because the water lines are at the depth they need to be, so they have to build that road basically at where it's at relative to the water lines.
So are those just 4 lots right there across the road?
So there are these 4 lots right here, right? And then these ones right here, this little cul-de-sac and these lots. Also be a condition that they'll have to, this doesn't meet city standards. We've talked to them about it. They're going to have to go back and redesign this somewhat just to make that little area right there meet a city standard. So that'd be a condition as well.
What's on that side where the 4 lots are just kind of there?
That's Gap Canyon right there.
This is the road that leads up to the water tank. So
no, we're talking off the back of those 4 lots. That goes into Gap Canyon, right?
Just kind of there by themselves.
With the climbing.
Right here?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
The 4
right
little, there you go, Wes.
Yeah, so that is the road that comes off of Gap Canyon that leads up to the water tank. So it's right there. Here's Gap Canyon. Here's DeVario Canyon Drive right here, and then, so here's DeVario Canyon right here, Gap Canyon's over here, and so that's Alienta they'll have to build, but those 4 lots kind of sit over there by themselves against the wash that's right there.
That wash is where, that's the climbing. That's where you go climbing, right? That's
right
the popular destination to go and climb.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are open space areas that get dedicated to the city.
What type of trail systems are going through here to access, that canyon's still accessible, right?
Yeah.
For recreation?
It'd be accessible right through there. They're dirt trails, I think Cimarron Chacon, correct? Is the one that builds those?
Yeah, Gap Canyon will stay in its current condition and use.
Okay.
So, just to make comment on this, in my opinion, I've used it a lot. A lot of people I know come down. That's something that I think is worthy of preserving in every way we can. I think those 4 houses on that side feel out of place for what we have there. I think it's a southern Utah. As we've always looked at DeVario, it's such a place that's been used for recreation, things like that. So, as we try to preserve those things, I think that does those kind of detract
what are
from
the purpose of those 4 lots right there?
So, Mark Teepin with DeVario. When we did our development agreement back in the day and laid out all these parcels, we identified the areas that the city at the time wanted to preserve. And our development agreement has a 100-foot setback, cliff line setback written into the development agreement. 100 feet on this side, 50 foot on the other side relative to Gap Canyon. So those lots are the only ones that can be built and stay out of that 100 foot. So that area is being protected for its use. The areas between those lots that you see adjacent to the road, that will provide access, and that could be landscaped with some benches and maybe some parking stalls for people that want to come up and use it. But we haven't really planned it out that far yet on the landscape side. But our intention is to keep that area as pristine as it has been, and that's why the development agreement had a 100-foot setback for any residential lots.
I guess I would concur with Greg's assessment of those 4 lots. They don't really seem to fit the rest of what we're looking at. Technically they may be within the development agreement, but aesthetically I'm not sure that it supports the nature of what that area is with the trails and the hiking or climbing.
And they don't fit up next to the other ones in the corner. I'm not that picky, but that just looks weird to me just on paper. But
Right. So the constraint is if you took 100 foot, if you want to give 100 feet here up higher, and we can tie them into those lots so that they're not by themselves. Yeah, so if you wanted us to move the lots here and then, somewhat encroach into that 100 foot, we could do that.
I don't think we don't want to encroach in the 100 foot.
Right, but there's no restriction from a Hillside perspective or any other code restriction that would prevent us from putting those lots there. And I think that, the 100-foot setback was that intention. And if this road and water line weren't there and we could shift it over, then they would be, we could move everything over off that 100 foot, but we're constrained by the existing water line and utilities in here and that 100-foot setback on the Gap Canyon side.
I don't love it.
I don't love it either. It wouldn't be heavily scrutinized if it wasn't against something that we consider so, part of Southern Utah, something that's, that's worth protecting in every way that we can. I know there's a 100 setback, but it's still, in my opinion, it's kind of weird. Doesn't, yeah.
I mean, easily within 100 feet, there can be a trail, along this corridor all the way up.
So from those 4 lots down to the next intersection, there will be nothing. Where's the next? Or is there?
Yeah, so this is Gap Canyon right here, the entrance to the subdivision. So if you look right here. So yeah, these 4 lots are pretty far up. But again, our intention is to provide trails and access to the canyon as has always been used. We're not trying to prevent the use at all. It's one of our main amenities.
Yeah.
It is our main amenity.
Paula, could we approve it without those 4 lots?
You can do that. We would have to look at the development agreement because they'd have a right to adjust for their density. I don't know all the details in that development agreement, so I would need to look at them. But
I mean, the intention I understand, and I understand your concern, but again, I think, our desire is to keep that Gap Canyon recreation area the way it has been and improve it and provide a trail and provide benches and some, if we need to park, street parking stalls here for people that don't live up in that area, we'd be happy to do that.
But does it, I mean, am I way off base here? Does it not feel a little weird there from the way that's all designed and that's all open right there, and then you have these 4 homes and it's open again? In your professional opinion?
I like to put homes all the way up here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought I might get.
That's my professional opinion, but it would ruin,
at least you're honest.
What's out there. Yeah. Go ahead. This is Clayton.
I'm Clayton Nelson from L.R. Nelson Consulting Engineers, 6765 West Russell Road, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm the design engineer on this project, and so I just wanted to share. How do we go to the next one? Let's see. Yeah.
Scroll up.
Touchy. So if you look at this overall here, you can really see in here where there's Gap Canyon and that, and you can see in this little area here it pops out. So we're still going to be away from Gap Canyon itself. Whereas if you look at these other areas, it comes back in closer to Aliante Parkway and that. And so that's what we were looking at. It was a spot where we could put these, 4 houses in that, because it's not much different than what you have up here at the top too. So that's kind of why we came up with what we did to do that. Also trying to keep, these lots as close to 10,000 square feet as we could.
Relative to the use of it and future dedication to the city, we would be be more than happy to work with Parks and Rec on what kind of amenities they want to add to that cliff edge, so to speak, and make it look nice instead of just a street section.
Which we'd like that. That'd be great.
Yeah, we would too.
And here's my opinion. This is just mine. Because of where this is, because of what it is, I'd like to see not the 4 houses and not even the division up at the subdivision at the top. The subdivision at the top feels like it fits a little bit more, so I don't think that needs to be moved. But if there is a way that we can make adjustments, move around, if that development agreement has some looseness in it to where these 4 residential units can be moved to somewhere else, I think that would fit better. I think we'd be happier about it, and that would be my suggestion.
We'll certainly take a look at that. I do want to say that the location of those lots relative to the actual Gap Canyon feature itself, it's in the pretty beginnings of it, not in the the cliff edge side where they're climbing all the time. This is the climbing area. So I mean, it might be worth going out there and looking at that location relative to what the amenity that you're concerned about in Gap, because it is pretty shallow through here.
Should we table it then we go take a look?
There's a lot of traffic out there, a lot of pedestrian traffic, climbers. The likelihood for conflict is high, I think, with the lots on that side.
Adam, what do you think about the lots on the top, that division at the top? Would that be something we want to look at changing out for density somewhere else? So that road to the south, to the canyon, all of those lots, so not just the 4, but the ones at the top, would be something that we want to change density to another area?
Based on the comments that have been, or the concerns that have been expressed by the council, I do think it would probably be a good idea to take your time to make sure you're familiar with really how this would lay out on the site and see if you're comfortable with that.
And relook at the development agreement to see if...
Well, with that, I'm just going to make a motion. We can go from there. I make a motion...
Yeah, let me just, and I'd like to talk to Paula afterwards about this. The boundaries are in a state of flux. I mean, that we do have to preserve certain areas out there. So there's a beautiful area on the other side of this property that we're trying to preserve as well. So if there's a way that, if we give up these 4 lots, if this boundary on the other side, whoops, went too fast, can be adjusted to maybe pick up 4 lots internally somewhere, to get off the Gap Canyon side, we'd be happy to do that. Does that seem better?
Yeah, that's something. Let's look at it. Let's table this. I feel like this is something we should table. This is my opinion. I'm just going to make the motion that we table.
Until when?
How long do we want? 2 weeks?
Next regular session?
November
4th.
November
4th.
Make a motion. We table item 17 until the next regular session, November 4th.
Second.
And we'll do an alternate layout that gets those lots out of there and maybe put some on the other side and adjust the boundary.
Could you look at so all of them on that side of that? So not just the 4, but the ones at the top.
I'm not sure that, to get those, I mean, you're going to really, this area over here is pretty nice too, honestly.
All right, we'll go over and let's take a field trip.
Yeah, you'll find out this cul-de-sac, because the boundary, the Gap Canyon kind of runs this direction, it pulls away pretty substantially. But this is a nice area too, so it's kind of like, scroll down, hang on.
Let's take the truck.
Yeah, so here you can see.
Yeah, this is.
So here's Gap Canyon. Right, there.
Yeah, so these lots are kind of, they're pulled away.
Those lots are pretty far away from Gap Canyon itself.
But there's some room down here. This is the really pretty area right through here. But there may be some room to adjust the boundary and squeeze in the lot's interior.
Yeah, we'll go, Adam, maybe it would be a good idea since we're field tripping next week anyway to go look at it.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Together, because we're going, you don't know, we're going on a field trip. Okay, so motion was made by Greg, right?
Yep.
And second by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will look at this and have it back on the agenda on November 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next request is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for patio furniture at Sunriver. It's a 1-lot commercial subdivision located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Pioneer Road and Nighthawk Drive. Excuse me. This is the lot right here. Here's Nighthawk. Here's Pioneer. There's your zoning as PDC, and basically it's just to create this 1-lot subdivision right here. They will be required to dedicate a decel lane, as that's been determined as the access to the parcel. They also will be required to dedicate Pioneer Road, as it is not a dedicated road right now. It's on private property. And anyway, So they'll be required to dedicate that as well with this subdivision.
So if we, approving this tonight, I mean, we know there's significant concerns with the community on this parcel.
Right.
One of them is their access. So the access is now coming off Pioneer, which it wasn't before, and so that's something that's being addressed there.
No, they've always had one right here. They'll come back, they said, so we're not approving any access with this plat. It's basically just the boundaries, but the decel lane, knowing the access is right here. One of their accesses is right here. When you come back with the PDC, then they'll show you.
We'll get into all the weeds.
We get into the good
Yeah.
stuff. So this is just,
This is basically just to create a one-lot subdivision.
okay, I'm okay with that. Does anybody else want to make any comments, or should I?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Patio Furniture, Sunriver, a one-lot commercial subdivision located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Pioneer Road and Nighthawk Drive.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a request to consider approval of preliminary plat for the flats at Grandview. It's a 60-lot residential subdivision located along the future extension of Skyrocket Road at approximately 1600 West. So here's where it sits. Here's Dixie Drive right here to the east. Skyrocket Road runs also to the east and then comes up into the south of the project. There's your zoning. And you've seen this before. It was presented as a PD zone amendment. So with the detention basin here, public roads here, and common area there.
They put a lot of common area in that one.
There is a lot of common area.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Anybody have any questions?
Questions, people? No questions? Ready for motion?
Do you want me to keep it going with the motions?
You might as well. You're on roll.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for the flats at Grandview, 60-lot residential subdivision located along the future extension of Skyrocket Road and approximately 1600 West.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I do not have any appointments. So next week for our work meeting, bring your hiking boots, apparently. Yeah, we'll be going obviously to Gap Canyon, but we're also going to go up to Jimmy and I have been there before. The archaeological site up by the sign on the freeway. We're hiking up there. Oh, they're looking at it again. Yeah.
The one that was for sale, that parcel that was for sale there on the south side of the river?
Yeah.
I'm curious do we have any interest in,
Well, that's what we want to discuss. We want to look at it and just make sure everybody's familiar with what's up there and understand some of the history and then try to figure out where to go. There are some options maybe. I think we ought to meet at Confluence Park. And so we'll have the bus if you want to do that. But
since it'll be here first.
We're going to meet here first. So the field trip will be the last thing. And so if you drive your own car, then you could just be done after DeVario probably. Just head home or come back on the bus, whatever you want to do.
And then we won't have council on the 11th. That's Veterans Day. And then won't have council on the 25th because that's Thanksgiving. So anyway, reports. Jimmy, got anything? I don't either. Brian?
I'm going to ask to be excused next week. My son is going into rehab, and I have to have him up there on Thursday. I will try to make it back.
If you can't, you'll just miss hiking.
And you could go see those sites. We can give you some maps.
Okay.
You could go look at Gap Canyon and that one on your own. But Jimmy's going to be gone too, it sounds like. So
You're gone next week too?
it's possible.
His end date has changed twice in the last 3 days, so it could change again if it gets closer. So just right now it's the 20th.
We'll start with a presentation with, who do we call him, Adam?
There's a bunch of them.
I know. So Southwest Symphony Heritage Choir, they're coming forward with a new proposal for performing arts theater. So that will be first, and then we'll go on our field trip. Any? No, we're just looking at it right now. Any reports, Greg?
No, I can report. Everybody knows, I think, in this room. We had the SITLA Board of Directors down this week. They were extremely impressed. For SITLA, the development that's happening in southern Utah far exceeds everything else that's going on in the state. It's really impressive. So they were very happy with the city of St. George and with what's going on down here. So, report.
Cool. Bardell?
Just a report that the Shade Tree Committee did meet. They've had some changes in staff over there. Christina came to our meeting and I think really enlightened a lot of folks as to how things are supposed to be happening over there. So
it's on my list of things to do.
I think that's going to be, it'll definitely be some improvements as we go forward.
It needs to improve. We'll get there. Not really. No. So with that, we don't have need for closed session, so I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Bardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.